This always brings a tear to my eye, so if I start to cry, please don't judge. Everyone is creative. A creative life requires bravery and action, honesty and hard work. We are here to support you.
Celebrate. Seed just sown, a child just born and howling, belong to a place I'd never been to before. And stories unfold, rarely linearly, ephemeral beings, we're temporary.
Nina is a professional who transitioned her career from public health into fashion. She studied at FIT and has designed for notable brands like Rebecca Taylor and American Eagle. She launched her own women's wear label, but right now what she's really known for is being the director of the ACC, Austin Community College Fashion Incubator, where she empowers emerging fashion businesses. She also has her own consulting company on the side, Cadre Innovation. Let's bring Nina to the stage to hear about the intersection of creativity and crossroads.
Hi, everyone. Good morning. It's a pleasure to be here. Got a chance to visit Creative Mornings before, and it's actually one of the first organizations I became aware of when I moved from New York to Austin. I'm originally from North Carolina, which I always tell people because I know how we feel about Yankees. But no, I did spend quite a bit of time in New York working in design, and I loved it so much. Still love it very, very much. But I think whenever Ben told me what some of the options were for our conversation today, crossroads really stood out. And I believe that all of us have a lot of spaces in our life that we're constantly crossing some barriers, building some spaces that we weren't really planning to build. Life sometimes necessitates that. Sometimes it's just, our own vision and direction. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna go through what I prepared, but what I love about preparation is that you also get a chance to improvise a little bit. So we'll see a little bit of that kind of as we go along. So a little bit more about my story. I appreciate Ben kind of framing out some of the career jumps that I made, but I think for me it was always about really wanting to make an impact, to show up authentically as myself within the space that I had available at the time. And so when I started in public health, it was because that's what my family knew. Like I came from North Carolina. My family is in medicine, and so I knew I didn't want to cut anyone. I didn't want to poke anything. I was not really about that life, but I was like, but I will help a community. And so that's what I worked in. I worked in public health, in clinics. I did, patient services. We did mobile mammography clinics in Southeast Washington, D.C. There were some really exciting ways to help and drive community impact. But I believe it came to a point in DC where I really felt like I needed to also make some choices around my joy, like the things that really ignited me, that felt authentic to who I was. And fashion had always been a part of that, but I hadn't really given myself permission to explore that. And so my first crossroads was really around, I could have been in Sudan or Italy in 2010. And it came about because of working for Population Services International in DC, a nonprofit, and it was an opportunity to go lead a communications program in South Sudan. I would be living in Juba. If you're familiar with the politics around that, that would have been a completely different turn than possibly going to design school and studying in Florence, Italy. So after talking with, friends, family, I made a choice. I was like, I've given myself to public health for about 8 years now. I think this is the time to kind of choose something that just makes me happy. And so I did. I moved to Italy, studied with a master's in my field, and then came back to New York and had an amazing career. The transition that brought me here was a family one. Sometimes you don't always get a chance to pick where the transitions happen. But I knew that I still love what I created in New York in terms of space for design, and I needed that to continue here. And so Texas has been a opportunity to expand, an opportunity to build space and to make space, not just for myself, but for my community, right? It's the industry that I wanted to be a part of. And I think what I love about Austin specifically is that this community feels it very strongly. There's a lot of collaboration, a lot of connection. If you show up and you're a pretty decent human, you can get a lot of stuff done in Austin. If you're not, we kind of look at you sideways and say, okay, that's just that guy. But for the most part, if you're a decent human, you can kind of create something and make some space. So I don't want to indict anyone, indict myself, but we try to do what we have to do. But in making space, the opportunity to create the fashion incubator came about. And so the partnerships were already on the table. The city of Austin saw that there was a lot of need for this to take place. There's already $86 million worth of industry in fashion, and this is before Kendra Scott unicorned. So unicorn, billion-dollar valuation business. I know you guys already know that, but it's changed so rapidly in the last 7 years or so. And what's possible in design from Austin has changed rapidly in the last 7 years, despite a pandemic, despite economic turmoil, despite political changes. There's a lot of opportunity and growth. And so what's been really exciting is the Fashion Incubator has been able to be a part of that, and it's really been a pleasure to do it. So what I wanted to do is just show you kind of a clip from one of our brands inside the studio. So that just gives you a lens in. That's one of our designers. She has a swimwear label. It's called G180 Swim. And her work is really centered around really eliminating drowning deaths. She's created a flotation device that's the first patent in the Fashion Incubator's utility patent. And she has a really unique line of hyperbuoyant swimwear, but also this very unique patented flotation device that once you've deployed it, it will actually flip you, it will basically inflate, it'll break the zipper, and it will flip you onto your back and keep your head above water until help arrives. What's great about it is that it stays very sleek and close to the body. So for people who are, actively running around, they're not wanting to have a huge, heavy flotation device on them. And so most of the time, people typically don't wear it. And so this is a really cool product that she was able to make and develop in the Fashion Incubator. And for me, whenever my worlds of public health and fashion collide, I was like, this is exactly my happy place. So that's a crossroads for me that kind of kept coming up between that and COVID. Had a lot of opportunities for how do we get these masks to stay on these faces to help prevent spread or face shield design or what have you. So it was a very interesting time. But what I want to talk about next is really about direction. We're going to cover just a few different areas about Crossroads. It's going to be around direction, values, perspective, and vision. It feels a little bit, I heard you use the word sermonic or pastoral to kind of have your points laid out. I guess I've gone to church a lot as growing up. But I think it just helps us to kind of frame out the conversation. So as we're talking about direction, I think that for creatives, this is a really unique time in the space of technology. There's a lot of people who think that they can replicate kind of how we think and what we do. If you know what you want, right? We're the ones who are curating and helping you know whether or not it's really worthwhile and valuable. But I think artificial intelligence is a really powerful tool, one that we can really utilize to propel what we're doing and make it even better. But I think whenever we do that without direction, it's just a mess. And so when I look around the room about all the people who are kind of operating within your gift, whether it's photography or graphic design or apparel or what have you, this is really a time to really kind of pull within ourselves and think about, well, what is it that we're really saying? What is the true direction that we want to put forward into the world, and how do we make a difference? The next one that I want to talk about is values. We're going to do a Slido in a little bit. You guys are going to find out how good I am with Slido. This will be it'll be a good foray into using Slido. But I think that what I wanted to do is talk first about values. What drives you? Like, what really drives the final decision? We have direction, we have an idea about what the creation needs to be, but the values are really kind of that dividing point, of where we're going to land on the other side of these decisions. And if we're really proud of it, if it's something that we can really stand behind. What I love about Creative Mornings is, the insistence on caring about what we do, the insistence on keeping the soul in what we do. And that's something that really can't be replicated. Like, you always have to bring that to the work that you are as a creative, right? So in terms of the values that we hold, especially with the incubator, as well as just how I care about my work, really caring about authenticity, community, and then just really the belief that, like, what we have, it truly is enough. What we're bringing to the table in its evolution in this moment is exactly what it's supposed to be.
The brand started kind of as a social project and also an environmental project, where we realized that there was a lot of artisans that are highly skilled in Medellin that were losing jobs and just being paid unfair wages. So we began communicating with these artisans and thinking of ideas of a brand that could kind of tie in all the social and environmental responsibility in a really fun and exciting way. Started working with leather about 4 years ago, and since then I've never looked back. I personally don't eat meat, but right now there's a lot of controversy around alternative leathers, which are vegan leathers. A lot of these leathers are just plastic and they're not biodegradable. They're also new materials that are being created just for consumption. I'm really drawn to fun, colorful, and vibrant things. That's kind of how I live my life. So I want to create a brand that really does all the worrying for you, and we do a really extensive dive at the brand of our material selections and our social responsibilities. And so we kind of want our customers to feel like we are a trustworthy brand and that we are providing you with the best practices possible, and then also with a fun and colorful, vibrant product. There is a lot of talent that is overlooked in our countries in general, and so I really want to highlight their talent and everything that is possible for production in an ethical way within our country. So overall, overlooking the brand and everything that I am doing independently, I would love for Medellin and Colombia as a country to be kind of highlighted and seen for what it's truly capable in the world of fashion and responsible fashion, and just highlight all the artisan and skill in the arts that we have as a country.
So Katira is one of the designers in our incubator. She's our first international relocation to Austin to build her business here. She works with artisans in Colombia and has done incredible work with reclaimed and dead stock leather pieces. She's reinvigorated an artisan group of makers who were disenfranchised from globalization. So like a lot of our industry, as you guys know, has been kind of parsed in different parts of the world where certain, artisans and makers, have kind of been pulled out of the process. And so now in kind of this shift, however we got here, we'll just leave that alone, is, now it's time for us to kind of say, okay, well, what do we have? and how do we engage it in a way that is authentic, really protects our community, and really allows us to bring beautiful products to the forefront. What I love about the creative process with her, especially when we talk about values, is that part of her value is environment. Part of her value is around dignity in the craft and really respecting the people who make the products. But it's also in respect to, one thing she didn't share here as much was scale. I think a lot of our purchasing processes have been kind of geared towards making products that are supposed to be consumed by millions of people instead of just the people who really love it, right? We have masses of things instead of the things that we really care about the most. And so I think there's a shift that we'll observe about what we choose, what we put on our body, what things that we believe are gonna live for a period of time. And these are decisions. Every decision, I believe, is a crossroads, right? We're kind of deciding, in my prism of value for environment, I'm passing through these decisions on color, I'm passing through these decisions on makers, I'm passing through these decisions on supply chain, through that same idea of the environment right now is the most important part. Or, I have a hyper niche customer. One of my team members is here, Morgan, and she's done some really cool work around universal and adaptive clothing. And, the prism at that moment was, we need to create product around things that fit everyone, regardless of ability. And so being able to design product that has a soul, that recognizes the human that's inside of the clothes, and to be able to filter everything through that idea. So if it doesn't cut the mustard on this side, it doesn't make it to the other side. And we have to be okay with the edit. And I think as creatives, when we're in our true delivery space, we know that there's a lot of editing that happens in our work. There's the Maserati that we imagined, and then we're like, we don't actually need all that, we're gonna deliver this. And so we create, these bands of tension, I think. I feel it all the time. I feel it all. It is like the biggest conflict of my life, of feeling like, but I was trying to take you here, but you only wanted this, It's so frustrating. But I think that what brings it back to center for me in that crossroads space is really knowing what prism I'm using in order to create that moment and that product and that experience. And so that's really, really key. One of the things that I wanted to do, because I wanted to hear more from y'all, is I created a few Slidos. When making a major decision, do you prefer to reason with someone else or alone? This is career, life, love, creative. So we're all answering. I'll tell you, I wish I could show it to you as it's happening in real time. What's happening neck and neck is the first two. I need some time to think about this alone is 36%, calling a trusted confidant is 36%. And then, let's see. Okay, so 83 votes are in, and we are, thank you, Ben. Calling a trusted confidant is winning. I need some time to think about this one alone. A lot of us are creatives, introverts, maybe. I am both. I can will myself into this space, but I really need to recharge alone. I need time by myself. The more advisors, the better. We're pretty evenly split on that one. Okay, let's go to the next one. Mom's still green. Best friends are winning. Partners are winning. There's some good husbands in there. A therapist. All right, one more. All right, we'll close this one. We'll go on to the next one. And then I'll zoom through the last. So this is the last Slido. Oh, thank you. So the question is, thank you, Ben. What personal values do you find yourself grappling with when facing a creative crossroads? What personal values are you grappling with? These are good. Whew. Authenticity and security are first. What's a good use of my time? Sustainability. impact on others, quality versus profit. I felt that one. Amazing. So a lot of these we've kind of identified our own prism, right? Whenever we're thinking like, what are we going to carry forward for our next crossroad? And then who we're bringing along with that journey to help kind of improve the filter. Well, it looks like authenticity and security are still out front. So as we set our direction, we've set our values, we've identified our prism. We're talking now about perspective, the vantage point that we need in order to be able to see this clearly. For me, I always have to get recentered. Even for today, I was really excited, but also just needed a moment to kind of reset. This really isn't about me telling you all the amazing, wonderful things that I am. This is about us having a dialogue about how do we create a moment for us to really process how we make our decisions about what we do and what we care about the most. I think whenever my heart is so close to what I'm doing, sometimes it's harder to gain the perspective that I need in order to do the right work, because it's kind of clouded by the other things that are around it. Maybe what is the community going to say about this, or does this feel authentic to what I want to provide? Does this feel like the best long-term decision, or is this just a right now moment? And being able to kind of parse that out. I think for all of us, we have that moment of kind of resetting perspective, and do we reset that perspective alone, or do we reset that perspective in collaboration with other people? But really the last thing I want to talk about is vision. The incubator was really a part of an opportunity to build really the industry that I really hoped that I could be a part of. I had worked in New York, and I felt like I was kind of getting pushed on in a lot of different directions, and the perspective was hyper limited because that view of return on investment at any cost was really high. When I came to Austin has a really different relationship to creation. And it's something that I really respect about how we operate here. And I hope it's something that will continue as we grow. Like, everyone kind of sees Austin as now the cool hot spot. It's the global city of the future. We will embrace all that means. But I hope that we're also able to kind of keep the soul of that as well. But for me, I think that as I'm looking at the vision of where I'm hoping that will be, I'm hoping that will bring a clear prism about what our values truly are as we create more opportunity for our industry to thrive. One of the things that I think kind of illustrates that is where we decide to create our partnerships. The Future of Fashion is a group that there's a series that we created in partnership with Macy's, and it wasn't necessarily the likely space to do our work with initially, but when we saw that they were really invested in something called the Mission Everyone campaign, it became very clear to us that this partnership actually had legs well before any of the conversations around making space for everyone. I think I can say that phrase. It's really, Macy's has always been very committed to that, and so in our space of the Fashion Incubator really serving the community, that's something that we also really look for. So in our decision matrix and what our vision looks like for the future, how we're creating additional partnerships that are helping to augment that and take that further, maybe further than we could by ourselves. So as I'm closing out, because I want to make sure to kind of maintain time, this is really about, for me, it's always come down to impact, innovation, and then what value we're able to create long term. And I really see Austin as a very unique space to do some really impactful, powerful work in creativity, but I know that it's going to take a moment for us to go through a crossroads independently about who we want to be, what values we want to hold, what perspective we're going to bring to the table, and how our vision is really going to shape the future. So I'm going to close out here. It's a really pleasure to be able to be with you today. And thank you so much to Creative Mornings and Ben.